Benjamin, the West Indians, Levi's, the Haitians, and the Jamaicans. Most other groups would say the Benjamins, Jamaicans, but I highly doubt that, because most of them are the priests and they take it from Levi's. They come mostly, predominantly from Biafra, certain tribes from Biafra, and specifically Abia, and from the Ashanti tribe. Okay, but like the slave master would not have said, oh, I think you're Levi, so we take you to the Jamaicas. No, that's not how it works, you know. But like I said, there's a distribution, there's a frequency of specific people that went in different waves. That's why you need to get that transatlantic slave trade, the Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade. You see the distribution, they have it all documented, so you don't, this is not stuff that you can't trace. Okay, but we need to not be lazy to trace these things out, especially if you don't know where your heritage is from. Trace it out. Okay, and if you can't find specifically, you gotta fall into one of the two kingdoms, and we just know that we're one. And it says take the two sticks, and when Yeshua comes, it's gonna be one in his hands. But it's all about the movement. It's about how we're gonna come together as a nation. So you have Yahweh on one hand, which is led by the African Americans for the most part. You know, African Americans, the Benjamin and Levi, the Judah, Yahweh, Benjamin and Levi, lawyer, are going to lead their Judah. They're going to lead the, you know, and give the information to the rest of the 12 tribes, who are the, you know, Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, Issachar, you know, the Aztecs. But like I said, it's not going to tricky areas. Like we are not given the stick of Yahweh. We're on this side, on the UK. We don't, like, how many Mexicans do I meet? How many Puerto Ricans do I meet? How many Cubans do I meet? No, I meet more like Jamaicans. I meet more like so-called Africans. You know, my people, Igbos, you know, Ghanaians, you know, like Gambians. This is the kind of people I meet, because that's Ephraim. And most of these other Arab nations, like Algerians and all of that stuff. This is the kind of people that we're supposed to measure. For the most part of it, these other people, I don't know how to measure them. Because at the end of the day, it's like I said to you, the most important thing is we need to be careful, especially you people in your Americans. You need to be careful how you measure, like the Mexicans, or how you measure the Puerto Ricans. You know, how you measure the Mayans and all of that stuff. Because like the Dominicans, those are easier to measure in a sense. You know, because like I said, you don't dismiss the color of the skin. Very important, because if not, Yeshua, they want to be put in Revelation that Yeshua had a specific color. Okay, color is important, like we saw with the genetics, where even no matter what, whatever, you know, touches black becomes black. Okay, but the spirit now comes from the Father. Okay, so in a shallow sense of it, right? If you mix up a white, we're talking about a raping now that's going on. If a white man rapes a black woman, right, what happens? The child ends up coming black. There's no such thing as mixed, so that no light-skinned person is black. Okay, but the spirit now is of that white man. Now when you're measuring, now if you see a pale skin Taino, are you going to measure them? Why are you measuring them? Because if you're saying that the slaves also mated with each other, right, and they produce seed, then the seed they're going to produce are going to be black. The only time that the seed will be pale is if they were mixed up with the white. So even if they mixed up with the white, and then they now go on and mix up with the black people, they're still white. Do you see what I'm trying to say? You see why this is very important now? Okay, so we need to be very careful how we're, because this is part of the strategy to integrate things, and this is what you see in Daniel 7, in the book of Daniel, where you see the 4 kingdoms, right? And it says the stone that was cut up from the heavens, you know, struck the leg that was part iron, part clay, because that's where the weakness is. And the sword is going to come on the mingled people when you see in Jeremiah. I think it's Jeremiah 50 or Jeremiah 51. We'll deal with the scriptures like in a bit. You know, I just want to cover this up because this is not what I want to do. I don't deal with scriptures. That's where our life comes from. But I just want to shut up the gainsayers for now. You know, so we're clear on this stuff. You don't bring no science nonsense to me, because I can deal with that all day. So that don't faze me when you come up with that. You know what I mean? You want to play those games, I'll play till you get tired. That's why it's majored in. Okay? So don't even start that. Right. So let's look at let's carry on with the percentages. So the frequency of that EV38 haploid type, right? It's haploid group. Libya 46.5. Algeria 8.6. This is showing that there's remnants of our people everywhere. Okay, but you will know by with most of these people, especially with Ephraim, you will know by the families. Most of them, they call themselves Bene Israel. You know, they call, like, you have the Algeria, Morocco, you have the Wagla tribe. You know, you have the Caron, you have the, like, our people Biafra, you have the Ondo tribe, who used to be called strange people, okay, because they were just different. You have the Angolas, you know, the black Spanish and Portuguese Jews, okay. You have the Yusufazai, or whatever they call them, Afghans, you know, which are native to Afghanistan and Pakistan. So you have our remnants of our people in Pakistan. There's even a remnants of our people in China, you know, which they're called the Kaifeng. But that all of this is just based on research that I've been doing, right? But if anyone can say, oh, this is the tribe, we know that our people are scattered all over the earth, okay? But like, we know that the original of our people that are in these regions are not going to be pale skinned. The pale skinned Chinese people you see are all Greeks. That was a selection of the seed. It's Most High revealing most of the phenotypes that you see. It's giving an indication of what's going on in your genotype. So we know that the original Greeks were black. We know that the original, you know, Esau was originally, you know, black, because, you know, or Rudy, right? But through the selection of the gene, that we could remember that melanin is what makes it dominant. Okay, so that's why you see Blumen. It goes into the detail of how the civilizations come about, how the Caucasian race comes about. We know that in the Caucasus Mountains, that's why Blumenbach specifically said those that come from the Caucasus Mountains. We know that Esau liked to stay in the mountains. Read Obadiah, says the man that stays in the clefts of the rock. Okay, so that's where that word Caucasian comes from. Not all white people are Caucasian. Okay, but that also goes back to, but it's still a cursed seed, like when Gehazi's seed was cursed in 2 Kings chapter 5 verse 27. It says all his seed became white. His seed became white. So there's a white race that will be in Gehazi, which is, he was a Hebrew. Well, when I say Hebrew, Hebrew Yasharala and Hebrew Israelite, you know, because we know that Esau is also Hebrew as well, but he's not a Hebrew Israelite. Okay, right. So that's that for that. I'm going through it as quickly as I can so that we can just get this out of the way, right? So we go to, now we're still reading the frequency of the population group of the EV38 haploid group, right? So we see Somali 1.5. You know what I mean? So most of the Somalis don't even come close at all. Tunisians 1.4%, Egyptians 8.3%. So the remnants are people in there, you know, but it's not that significant to classify them as our people. Moroccan Arabs, have dealt with that before, 6.8. Okay, and we're not talking about the mainstream ones. We're talking about the real tribes, and these are the ones that they target, you know, when they're blowing up all the terrorism that they're doing. They're actually targeting the remnants. Okay, you can see that in scriptures in Isaiah. Right, let's keep going. Saudi Arabians 7.6. Not the Saudis that you see today. Those are pale skin. They're not our people at all. They're products of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, they're the Greeks trying to hide themselves in another person's nationality. Okay, Yemenis 4.8. Southern Iranians 1.7. It's 1.7. Okay, Iraqis 1.4. This is very limited in these places. Pakistani 1.4. Turkey, Istanbul 1.2. Okay, let's keep going. Let's just go down. So we're going into the distribution now of that E1B1A. Okay, I want to get like a full list, so I don't go too much into Okay. I don't want to digress too much, but it gives you a whole list of haploid groups, that all come out from that EV38 haploid group. But I don't want to digress. I don't want to go too much into all of these things. Okay, but let's go to the Americas now. You have USA, America. Strangely enough, it says 7.7 to 7.9. That's very strange. Of that specific haploid group. Interesting. Cubans 8.9. Dominicans 7.6. Puerto Ricans 19.23. Brazil 4.4, and that's Alagoas. That's a specific place in Brazil, and then you have Bahia of Brazil as well, which is 19% of that same gene. Okay, so that's the EV38, but the specific gene, the HEBOs, the specific gene for the HEBOs is E1B1A. Okay, it doesn't really tell you the countries where this was distributed the most. Maybe that's why you don't see much of the African Americans. Most of them African Americans that were taken in slavery are HEBOs for the most. Okay, but when it says USA, I'm assuming that they're saying the totality, including the Europeans as well. That's probably why the number is so low. Okay, but this is just Wikipedia. Like I've done a lot of research, like on the genetic marker, right, L5114 in the Human Genome Project. And we can go intensively into the population distribution, but I just wanted to just give you a taste of it, that it's not impossible to trace these things out. That's what I'm just trying to show you. Okay, we can, like, if I was to go into it in detail, I can't use Wikipedia to do it. I have to go into proper sources, and bring out some serious, like, stuff for you that will probably, if you're not really that way inclined, will put you to sleep. Because this we're going into SNPs now. SNPs just means basically short snippets of genes. Right? So SNP mutation will show you the diversion. SNP mutations are what causes the conversion. That's what they call it. Conversion of genes, like it talked about, like the EV38, and then from there, there's a base, two main bases, and it's like a tree. It keeps on spreading. So that's how you have different Africans have the same, even though we're all black, but we all have different diversion, and all of that. When you look at what it all goes down to, they're different seeds. They're a corruption of the original seed. Example, Noah, the daughter slept with him, had Ammon and Moab. That's a corruption. Haggai had Ishmael. That's a corruption. The seed. That's why the Most High said, "My firstborn as Isaac." Esau and Jacob. That was a corruption. It was a sifting of the seed. You see, Cain and Abel. There's a mark that was put on Cain. He's a vagabond. So what mark will we put on a race of people that will distinguish them from every other race of people that you will see today? What's an identifiable mark that you can see on people today, that you can look at and say, oh, these people are, were marked by the Most High. It's the color of their skin, it's the melanin. They were stripped of their melanin. And every time there was a saint like Gehazi, stripped of the melanin. Okay, when Miriam sinned, was the first thing, she turned white as snow straight away. And look at the way they begged for the mercies of our highs to turn her black. But now our people want to bleach their skin. It's leprosy. Read Leviticus chapter 11. So now that we've gone through that, I hope that edified you guys. I know I went into it like the long way, but it's just to get you into understanding the science behind these things. Okay, now let's just go through some scriptures that verify that the seed comes from the Father. Okay, we'll just start with Ezra chapter 2, verse 59. And these were they that went from Tel Melah, Tel Hasha, Cherub, Adan, Imah, and Imah, and could not show their father's house and their seed, whether it was of Yasharallah. For our people, it was very important. So don't look down on it all. In fact, when you go down to verse 62, it says, these sought their genealogy, sought their register among the those that were reckoned by genealogy. That's what genealogy means. Genes, the distribution of genes. Okay, but they were not found. Therefore, were they as polluted? They were not found. So they were as polluted and put from the priesthood. So if you can't determine who you are, you're put out of the priesthood. That's why it says in Revelation 11, to measure the temple, the altar, and them that worship there. We are the temple. Yasharallah is the temple of Ahaya. We are a spiritual house being built up. Okay, like you see in Peter's, 1 Peter's 2. So we are the temple of Ahaya. Don't measure anything else. Measure the temple, the altar, and them that worship there. And the temple which is without, or the court, not the temple, the court which is without, talking about Revelation 1 and 2, Revelation 11, 1 and 2, the temple which is without, the court which is without, leave it out, for it is given to the Gentiles. And they will tread the holy city underfoot for 40 and 2 months. Okay, so when we don't measure them, we're not supposed to measure them. That's why it's important to understand. And that's like our people. I like the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah, is because we can see the parallel with our times today. They've forgotten about the law and they were reacquainting themselves with the law. They've forgotten about the feast days, and they were now. How did they react? They were heavily integrated with other nations, right? But how did they react during the time after integrating? That's a key one actually, because do we actually now, are we supposed to measure mixed race people too? That's a good question for you. Whether even if your father is of the seed, if the seed comes from your father and you have a mixed race baby, are we supposed to be measuring them like that? Let's find out. It says those that were reckoned according to genealogy, but they were not found, therefore they put them out from the priesthood. Okay, until they sought the Urim and Thummim. So the Urim and Thummim represents the light and perfection. Okay, so the high priest will have had something like a breastplate. Okay, I have a necklace kind of like version, but I won't really want a proper breastplate. But it was just literally, it represented the 12 tribes of Yasharallah. But the what's the perfection and lightning? The law is a light. Proverbs chapter 6 verse 23. The commandment is a lamp and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. Perfection. The law is perfect. Okay? Right, so it's according to the law, just like Paul was saying. We'll go into that in a second. But let's just get some more scriptures. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon. Let's get Wisdom of Solomon 7. Just to show this, the last scripture I'm going to show is more scriptures that show that the seed comes from the father. Okay, just like we probe with science, right? The Y chromosome. Okay. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 1. And we've been teaching this for time. Our people have been teaching this for time, and the scientists are now proving what we're saying. Okay, but people don't want to listen. They want to say, oh yeah, no one's saying the woman doesn't contribute to what happens. Just like the earth contributes to the nourishment of the seed that you put into it. But doesn't make the genetic makeup of what makes the tree, the genetic makeup that makes the tree comes from the seed itself, not from the earth. The womb of the woman, the egg is like the earth. The seed is like you saw an apple seed, you don't get an orange seed. You don't get an orange fruit. Whatever is in the seed is what you get out. Okay? That's a simple analogy, but that's exactly what it means. That's what the distribution. So no matter where you go, your seed stays the same. That's why you can look at a Jamaican and look at an Igbo man, and they look the same. I can be mistaken for a Jamaican very easily, and I'm sure I can go to my land in Abia State and find someone that looks like a Jamaican. Okay, right. I myself also am a mortal man, like all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. I'm reading Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 1. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man, and the pleasure that came with sleep. What's the pleasure that comes with sleep? Sex. Okay? Of the seed of man. That's the word, different words. In the Greek is called sperma. In the Hebrew is zara. Okay? So that's that for that. Okay. So are we supposed to integrate? Let's wrap it up with that.